For a long time, the galaxy never cared about Earth. To the great empires among the stars, humanity was young and weak, a race tied to one small blue planet, a species that had only begun to send ships into the dark. The galaxy laughed when Earth tried to join the Council of Powers. The great rulers told each other that humans were noisy children who believed too much in hope and too little in strength. Empires who had lasted for thousands of years dismissed Earth as nothing more than a small light that would fade. But they were wrong, and soon, they would remember the day when Earth's silence became more terrifying than its words. 4 years, humanity worked in shadows. While alien fleets fought endless wars, humans were quiet, building, learning, and watching. Hidden stations around black holes, secret research buried under Earth's oceans, deep bases on the far side of the moon, all of them worked on one impossible dream: to touch the power of dark matter. It was something even the greatest empires had feared. Dark matter was invisible, untouchable, but it was everywhere, holding the universe together. The ancients whispered that no weapon could be made from it, that no hand could shape it. But humanity never listened to the limits others set. They asked a single question: what if we could? And in the silence of secret labs, the answer was born. The first dark matter engine hummed without sound. It bent the space around it, twisting reality itself. It made a ship move without trace, without signal, without warning. That was the first spark. From that spark, the Armada was built. The galaxy noticed strange shadows near human space. Merchant ships vanished without distress calls. Patrol fleets entered the Sol system and never returned. The Council demanded answers, but Earth gave none. Their diplomats smiled and spoke of peace, but their eyes carried a new weight, a new silence. Then came the night of awakening. Across the solar system, hidden shipyards opened. From the black of space, giants moved. They were ships made not of steel or light, but of something deeper, something darker. Their shapes bent stars, their hulls swallowed the light around them. The first dark matter Armada rose, and every listening station across the galaxy recorded the same thing: silence. No engines, no signals, no trace. Just the sudden shift of fear inside every watching heart. The rulers of alien worlds sat in their thrones, staring at the reports. They remembered the laughter they once had for humanity, and that laughter now tasted bitter. The smaller races whispered in secret halls, asking each other if humanity had done the impossible. Some said yes, and they prayed for mercy. Others said no, that it was only a trick, and they prepared for war. But the truth was simple. The Armada existed, and it was awake. One alien scout ship, brave or foolish, tried to test it. They approached the black shape of a human vessel near Jupiter. The scout sent warnings, then fired weapons. The Armada ship did not answer. It did not fire back. Instead, the alien ship simply stopped. Its systems froze. Its weapons died. And then, in a silent flash, it was gone, erased without explosion, without debris, as if it had been swallowed by the dark. The message was clear, and it spread faster than any fleet. Humanity had built something no one else could. Humanity had risen higher than the galaxy believed possible. For the first time in history, the galaxy grew silent, not because there were no words to speak, but because fear had stolen those words away. On Earth, leaders did not celebrate. They did not boast. They only looked to the stars, knowing this silence would not last. Sooner or later, someone would break it. Someone would test them again. And when that moment came, the Armada would be ready. The dark engines hummed across the fleet, their soundless heartbeats shaking the void. In the quiet of space, where no one should hear anything, it almost felt as if the universe itself held its breath. The silent awakening had begun. The galaxy had always been loud with war, trade, and politics, but after the rise of Earth's dark matter Armada, a strange silence spread among the stars. It was not the silence of peace, but the silence of fear. The great empires who once laughed at humanity now gathered in secret chambers, whispering like frightened children. They remembered the scout ship that had vanished near Jupiter without sound or trace. They remembered the strange shadows that swallowed fleets without firing a single shot. None of their weapons had worked, and none of their sensors had understood what they faced. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy's rulers admitted they did not know the true power of another race. Across distant worlds, rumors ran faster than light. Some believed Earth had made a deal with ancient gods. Others whispered that humans had uncovered secrets older than the stars. Smaller races, long crushed by the larger empires, now looked toward Earth with hope, praying this new power could end their suffering. But the great powers did not pray. They plotted. They gathered spies and sent them toward Sol, hoping to uncover the truth. Yet none returned. Every spy ship vanished in the same way, swallowed in silence, leaving no echo, no last signal, no cry for help. Fear became heavy. For empires used to control, fear was poison. They began to imagine the worst. What if humanity had a fleet of 1,000 such ships? What if the Armada could reach their homeworlds without warning? What if Earth did not want peace, but conquest? One empire, proud and cruel, decided they would not wait to find out. They sent a fleet of 30 warships to test the humans. 30 against 1, they said, would prove the truth. Near the cold edge of Pluto, the Armada waited. The alien ships advanced in perfect lines, their weapons glowing, their commanders certain of victory. They sent demands to Earth, orders to surrender their new technology or face destruction. The human ship did not answer. It only drifted in the dark like a shadow, silent and patient. Then, without warning, space itself shifted. The alien fleet fired, but their beams bent away, swallowed into nothing. Missiles broke apart before reaching their target, as if time itself had turned against them. In seconds, confusion turned to panic. One by one, their ships vanished. No explosion, no fire, no wreckage. Just silence. 30 warships gone, erased from existence. Only the dark human vessel remained, unmoved, untouched, silent. The report reached the galaxy within hours, and the effect was like a storm. Worlds trembled. Empires raged. Smaller races cheered in secret. The silence of fear grew deeper, pressing on every mind. For the first time, alien rulers began to speak the word they had always denied: respect. Humanity had forced them to listen. But respect built on fear is dangerous. In hidden councils, the strongest empires began to prepare for war. They spoke of alliances, of striking before humanity grew too strong, before the Armada could cover every corner of the stars. They wanted to remind Earth it was still only one planet. Yet deep inside, even they doubted. If a single ship could erase fleets, what could an entire Armada do? Traders carried the stories across space. On every world, people spoke of the silent ships that moved without engines, without light. Some described them as ghosts, others as gods. And while fear spread in every empire, Earth remained silent. No threats, no demands, no declarations. Only the quiet rise of their ships, black and endless, moving through space without sound. And in that silence, the galaxy understood something it had never believed before. Humanity was no longer weak, no longer young, no longer to be ignored. They had become something else. Something the galaxy could not yet name. And in that unspoken truth, fear grew sharper. Fear turned to anger. Fear turned to desperation. And desperation always leads to war. The galaxy could not hide its fear anymore, but fear without answers is dangerous, and soon every empire demanded to know what Earth wanted. Did humans build the Armada only to defend themselves, or did they plan to use it for conquest? The question spread from world to world until it became a storm of voices. The Council of the Galaxy, which once refused to give Earth even a single seat, now sent urgent demands, ordering humanity to explain its intentions. But for weeks Earth stayed silent. Their ships patrolled quietly near their borders, their dark matter engines bending space around them, but no message came. That silence burned more deeply than any threat. Alien leaders shouted in anger, some called for war, but none dared to move first. And then, without warning, the silence broke. A single broadcast appeared across every channel in the galaxy. No empire could block it, no jammer could stop it. The message was simple, spoken in a calm human voice. We are humanity. We do not seek war. We do not seek conquest. But we will not kneel. We will not be ruled. We will not be broken. If you come in peace, you will find peace. If you come with chains, you will find nothing but silence. The message ended, and the stars seemed to grow colder. No threats, no promises, no arrogance, just calm words wrapped in unshakable strength. Across the galaxy, the effect was like fire on dry grass. Smaller races cheered in secret. They had lived under the shadow of cruel empires for centuries, and now they saw a new power that spoke not of domination but of freedom. To them, the Armada was not only a fleet, it was hope. But for the great empires, the message was an insult. They heard defiance. They heard rebellion. They heard a younger race daring to challenge thousands of years of rule. In their courts and palaces, leaders raged. Some swore to destroy Earth, to erase humanity before the Armada grew larger. Others advised caution, whispering that no known weapon could stop the dark matter ships. And in the middle of this storm, the galaxy grew more divided than ever. Traders carried the words to every corner of space. On frozen colonies, on burning desert worlds, on stations orbiting dying suns, people repeated the human message again and again. Some said the words gave them courage. Others said they were dangerous. But no one could deny the truth. Humanity had spoken, and the galaxy had listened. For the first time in history, the voices of Earth carried across every star, and not even the oldest empires could ignore them. Yet silence soon returned, and silence carries its own weight. What would Earth do next? Would they attack? Would they expand? Or would they simply watch the galaxy tremble? No one knew, and that uncertainty became its own weapon. An empire near the edge of the galaxy decided to test humanity's words. They sent envoys to Earth, pretending to seek peace, but their real mission was to spy on the Armada. The envoys never returned. No explanation came, no trace of their ships was ever found. Once again, silence answered louder than words. The message of Earth had been clear, and the galaxy understood. Humanity would speak only once, and the rest would be decided by actions. Across human space, the Armada continued to rise. More ships appeared from hidden shipyards, each one larger, darker, and quieter than the last. To outsiders, it seemed as if the shadows themselves were coming alive. To humanity, it was simply survival. On Earth, people remembered the centuries of being dismissed, of being called weak, of being ignored. They remembered every insult, every refusal from the Council, every time they were treated as less than equal. The Armada was their answer. Not a tool of conquest, but a shield that no one could take away. Still, the galaxy did not understand this. To them, the Armada was not a shield, it was a threat. Whispers grew of alliances forming in secret, empires preparing fleets, rulers planning to crush Earth before its power grew too great. Yet in those same shadows, others began to dream of a different future, one where humanity might lead not by fear, but by example. A galaxy divided, a galaxy uncertain, a galaxy where silence carried more power than war. The message had been spoken, and though it was simple, it shook every empire to its core. And so the galaxy waited. Waited for war, waited for hope, waited for the next move of the race they once called weak. Humanity had risen, the Armada had risen, and now the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. The message from Earth spread across every star and every empire, and though it was short and calm, it burned like fire in the hearts of rulers who had never been defied. For many, it was not enough to hear humanity's words, they demanded proof. Could the Armada truly fight, or was it only a weapon of fear, a bluff wrapped in silence? The answer came when one of the strongest empires in the galaxy decided to test Earth's resolve. This empire was old, proud, and cruel, a race that had conquered hundreds of worlds and ruled with iron strength. To them, humanity was still a small species clinging to one planet, daring to speak as equals. Their pride would not allow such defiance to stand. They sent a fleet, not of scouts this time, but of war. 50 ships, each larger than a city, armed with the best weapons their empire could build. Their leaders promised a quick victory, a lesson to the humans, proof to the galaxy that no new race could rise so high without being cut down. The fleet entered human space near Saturn, and the galaxy held its breath. Across countless worlds, people listened for the outcome. In the silence of space, the Armada waited. Only 5 human ships came to meet the invaders, 5 shadows moving slowly through the dark, their hulls black and silent. The alien commanders laughed when they saw them. 5 against 50. To them, it was no battle at all, only an execution. They demanded surrender one last time, their voices full of arrogance. The humans gave no answer. Then the test began. The alien fleet fired first. Beams of light brighter than suns raced through space, missiles streaked across the void, plasma fire lit the dark. But every weapon bent, twisted, or broke before it touched the dark matter ships. Some vanished into nothing, others turned back on their own fleet, burning the ships that launched them. Panic spread among the alien crews, but their commanders ordered them forward, screaming that it was only a trick. And then the Armada moved. The 5 ships did not fire traditional weapons. They did not launch missiles or beams. Instead, space itself seemed to bend around them. The alien fleet felt their engines fail, their systems freeze, their shields collapse. Whole ships were pulled into nothingness, erased without sound, their crews never even able to cry out. Others were crushed in silence, their hulls imploding as if the void itself had swallowed them. Within minutes, half the alien fleet was gone. The rest tried to flee, but there was nowhere to run. The dark matter ships glided forward, patient and unstoppable, their shadows reaching out like the hand of death. By the time it ended, 50 warships had vanished, and 5 human vessels remained, untouched. The galaxy trembled at the news. The proud empire that had sent its fleet now tried to hide its shame, but the truth spread too fast. Every world knew. Every people knew. Humanity had faced one of the strongest fleets in the galaxy with only 5 ships, and humanity had won. The test was over, and the answer was clear. The Armada was not a bluff. It was real, and it was unstoppable. Smaller races whispered prayers of gratitude, hoping Earth would protect them. Great empires whispered in anger, fearing what would come next. To some, humanity had become hope. To others, humanity had become the greatest threat in history. And yet, Earth stayed silent once more. No celebration, no speech, no declaration of power. Only silence. That silence was louder than any victory song. It told the galaxy that humanity did not need to boast. Their actions spoke for them. But in the shadows, the galaxy was changing. The test had been passed, but it was not the last. New alliances formed in secret, new plots grew in darkness. For if Earth could defeat one fleet, what would happen when the whole galaxy united against them? The answer had not yet come, but every star seemed to know it was only a matter of time. Humanity had proven its strength, and in doing so, had placed itself at the center of history. The first test was over, and the real war had only just begun. The destruction of the invading fleet sent shockwaves through the galaxy, and though many races celebrated in secret, the great empires felt only rage and fear. Humanity had passed the first test, and now the galaxy understood that the dark matter Armada was not a rumor, not a bluff, but a weapon beyond anything seen before. The rulers who once laughed at Earth now gathered in shadows, planning in silence, hiding their fear behind cold eyes. They knew a direct attack would end like the last fleet, with silence and defeat, so they turned to another weapon, deception. If the Armada could not be destroyed in battle, perhaps it could be broken from within. Across the galaxy, spies, assassins, and traitors were called, offered gold, power, and freedom to weaken Earth from the inside. Ships disguised as traitors slipped into human space. Agents whispered into the ears of human allies, promising them wealth and protection if they betrayed their fragile bond with Earth. Sabotage began in the dark. Supply convoys vanished without reason. Communications between colonies broke apart. Strange accidents struck shipyards building new dark matter vessels. Some human leaders believed it was only chance, but others saw the truth. The galaxy was moving against them, slowly and silently, trying to cut the Armada before it grew too strong. And then came the first betrayal. On a distant colony near Proxima, an allied alien race, one that had sworn loyalty to Earth, suddenly turned against them. Their forces attacked a human outpost, burning it to ash before vanishing back into the dark. When Earth demanded answers, the Allies denied responsibility, blaming pirates and rogues. But humanity knew the truth. They had been betrayed, and the enemy was already inside the circle. The Armada began to hunt shadows. Dark matter ships spread through human space, not only guarding borders but searching for signs of treachery. They moved like ghosts, striking at pirate bases, silencing enemy spies, destroying ships that carried hidden weapons. Yet for every enemy they caught, another appeared. It was as if the galaxy itself had turned into a maze of lies and hidden knives. On Earth, people grew restless. The victory against the fleet had made them proud, but the whispers of betrayal made them angry. They wanted justice, they wanted safety, and above all, they wanted the Armada to strike harder. Human leaders debated in secret chambers, torn between patience and wrath. To lash out at every empire would invite total war, but to stay silent risked more betrayal. And in this storm of doubt, the hidden enemy smiled. The coalition of empires that had sworn to bring Earth down grew stronger. In secret they traded knowledge, combining their science, building weapons they swore would pierce even the shadows of the Armada. But they still feared to face humanity openly. For now, they worked only in silence, cutting piece by piece, waiting for the perfect strike. And so, the galaxy grew darker. Trust was broken. Allies turned uncertain. Even within Earth's own colonies, some whispered doubts. Could the Armada truly protect them from every threat? Could humans fight not just fleets, but betrayal? The enemy had learned something important. The Armada was unstoppable in battle, but war is not only fought with ships and guns. War is also fought with lies, and lies are harder to see than fleets in the dark. For humanity, the greatest danger was no longer the open attack, but the hidden blade. And though the Armada moved like shadows, hunting every threat, the truth was simple. The hidden enemy was already inside, and the test of betrayal had only just begun. The galaxy no longer fought only with fleets of steel and fire. Now it fought with whispers, secrets, and shadows. Humanity had proven its Armada was unstoppable in open battle, so the enemies of Earth changed their weapons. They no longer sent great fleets, but instead unleashed assassins, spies, and silent saboteurs. It began with small strikes, communications cut in the middle of the night, power grids failing on distant colonies, supply ships exploding without reason. At first, people thought it was chance, but chance does not strike again and again. Soon it was clear, someone was guiding these attacks, someone with knowledge too precise to be luck. The hidden enemy had started a war without declaring one. The Shadow War had begun. Across human space, fear grew heavier. Colonists whispered of traitors in their own ranks. Soldiers wondered if the person beside them was friend or foe. Even commanders of the Armada began to question how much the enemy already knew. For the saboteurs struck with uncanny timing, as if they could see into human plans. Rumors spread that the hidden enemy had found a way to spy inside the dark matter ships themselves, though no one could prove it. The Armada responded with silence and steel. Dark vessels swept through space, hunting for signs of betrayal. They caught enemy agents hiding among traitors, they intercepted disguised supply ships carrying bombs, they erased entire pirate nests that had been secretly paid by alien empires. Yet no matter how many shadows were destroyed, more appeared. For every spy killed, two more rose. For every traitor silenced, another whispered in the dark. Humanity was strong in battle, but even the strongest fortress can fall if the enemy hides inside the walls. On Earth, the leaders met night after night, searching for answers. Some argued for striking every empire suspected of betrayal, but others warned that such rage would only unite the galaxy against them. Still, the pressure grew, and people demanded action. They did not want to live in fear of invisible knives. Meanwhile, the coalition of alien empires that plotted in secret grew bolder. They shared intelligence, they traded forbidden technologies, and together they built weapons they swore would pierce the silence of the Armada. They moved carefully, testing Earth's defenses with small attacks, waiting to see how far they could push before being discovered. Humanity began to see a pattern, a design hidden in the chaos. The attacks were not random, they were shaping the battlefield, preparing for something larger. But what? That question haunted the minds of human commanders. The Shadow War was not only fought with ships and spies, it was fought in the hearts of people. On distant colonies, trust began to break. Some wondered if Earth could truly protect them, others whispered that surrender might be safer. Even within the Armada, doubts grew. A few officers spoke in secret, asking how long they could fight an enemy they could not see. And yet, through all the fear and betrayal, the Armada did not falter. The dark ships continued to glide through space, silent and watchful, their mere presence enough to remind the galaxy that humanity still stood. But in the silence of the void, a darker truth waited. The enemy was not only outside. The enemy was inside. Somewhere in the shadows, someone had betrayed humanity, feeding secrets to their foes, guiding the knives that cut too deep. The Armada was powerful, but even shadows can be wounded when they bleed from within. The Shadow War was not yet finished, and every star seemed to know that the worst was still to come. The Shadow War had cut deep into humanity, and though the Armada still stood strong, every day brought new wounds that could not be explained by chance alone. Colonies were sabotaged with precision, convoys were destroyed at the perfect time, and spies always seemed one step ahead of the hunters. Suspicion grew heavy in every corner of human space, but no one wanted to believe the unthinkable, that an ally had betrayed them. Yet the truth could not be hidden forever. It began with a battle near the colony world of Eos, where a human convoy carrying supplies for new dark matter engines was ambushed by a fleet too well prepared, too perfectly timed. They struck at the exact moment the convoy was most vulnerable, when escorts were at their weakest. The attack was brutal, and though the Armada ships raced to defend, the enemy had already done its work. The convoy was lost, and with it, months of progress. But in the wreckage, human forces found something chilling. Among the enemy debris lay fragments of technology that did not belong to them. It was the technology of an ally, a race that had sworn loyalty to Earth, a race that had promised to stand beside them. For days, Earth's leaders argued, refusing to believe it. Perhaps the enemy had stolen the technology, perhaps it was a trick to plant doubt. But the evidence grew too heavy, and soon the truth was undeniable. Humanity had been betrayed, and not by strangers, but by those who once called themselves friends. The revelation spread through human space like fire. Anger rose in every city, on every colony, among every soldier of the Armada. Betrayal cut deeper than any weapon. People demanded vengeance, they demanded justice, they demanded the Armada strike immediately. The leaders of Earth struggled to control the fury, but they knew they could not remain silent. At last, humanity spoke, sending a message across the stars. Their words were not long, but sharp as blades. You chose betrayal. You chose silence broken by fire. And fire is what you will have. The Armada moved within hours. Silent ships emerged from the dark, gliding like shadows, hunting the traitors who had opened the gates to the enemy. Their first strike fell upon a hidden base, once shared between humans and their supposed allies, now revealed as a nest of spies. The base did not survive. In minutes it was gone, erased like dust under the weight of the dark matter weapons. Across the galaxy, the betraying race tried to defend itself with lies, claiming innocence, claiming ignorance. But no one believed them anymore, for the evidence was too strong. They had traded Earth's secrets to the coalition of empires, giving away the keys to humanity's defenses in exchange for promises of survival. Yet their survival was already lost, for humanity would never forgive. The galaxy watched in silence as the Armada hunted them, striking their fleets, silencing their colonies, erasing their power piece by piece. The great empires, who had hoped to use betrayal to weaken Earth, now saw something far more dangerous, the fury of humanity unleashed. For if humans were terrifying in silence, they were unstoppable in rage. The galaxy trembled as one truth became clear. The Armada could be calm, the Armada could be patient, but betrayal was the one crime it would never leave unanswered. And yet, in the shadows, the coalition smiled. They had lost one pawn, but they had achieved their goal. Humanity had been wounded, not by defeat in battle, but by betrayal from within. Doubt had been planted, trust had been broken, and the Armada had been forced to reveal its fury. The galaxy was shifting, and the path ahead was filled with fire. Humanity had discovered the betrayal. But the cost of that revelation was only beginning to unfold. The galaxy had spoken again, not with silence, but with fire, and the war in the shadows was about to become a war in the open. The betrayal had left scars across every corner of human space, scars deeper than the loss of ships or colonies. Trust had been broken, and betrayal was a wound that even the strongest Armada could not erase. Yet from that wound came something the galaxy did not expect. Humanity did not fall into despair, it did not crumble under anger. Instead, it became harder, sharper, more united than ever before. On Earth and across the colonies, people rose with a single voice. They had been betrayed, they had been tested, but they would not kneel, they would not break. The leaders of Earth called upon every world, every station, every colony to stand together. No longer would humans waste their strength on doubt or division. The Armada had been powerful before, but now it became unstoppable. New shipyards were built, hidden in the shadows of moons and deep inside gas giants, each one forging vessels stronger than the last. Dark matter engines were refined, weapons were made faster, shields were made denser, and the Armada grew, not in silence but in determination. For the first time in history, humanity acted not as scattered colonies or separate nations, but as one people with one purpose. Soldiers trained with a fury the galaxy had never seen, engineers worked without rest, scientists pushed the limits of what was thought impossible. Every man, woman, and child carried the same fire in their hearts. Never again would they be betrayed, never again would they be treated as weak. The galaxy watched with unease. They had hoped betrayal would weaken Earth, but instead it had forged steel from fire. Smaller races began to reach out in secret, sending messages to Earth, asking for alliances, asking for protection, offering loyalty in exchange for hope. For them, humanity was no longer just another race. Humanity was becoming a symbol. But the great empires did not see a symbol, they saw a threat. They watched the Armada grow and whispered in rage, swearing that this new resolve must be crushed before it spread across the stars. Yet even their anger was touched by fear, for each day humanity grew stronger, each day more ships rose from the shadows, each day the silence of the Armada grew heavier. Within the fleets, officers who had once doubted now stood tall, their voices firm, their eyes clear. They had seen betrayal, they had felt loss, but they had also seen what humanity could become when tested. The Armada became more than a fleet, it became a promise, a living vow carried in every dark hull. A promise that Earth would never again be silenced by mockery or crushed by arrogance. A promise that no empire, no betrayal, no shadow could break their will. The galaxy whispered of war, the coalition sharpened its blades, but humanity did not tremble. Instead, they prepared. Instead, they stood. And in that resolve, there was a quiet power more terrifying than any weapon. For a fleet can be destroyed, but a people united cannot be erased. The betrayal had been meant to weaken Earth, but it had only awakened something stronger, the true resolve of humanity. And as the Armada continued to rise, the galaxy realized with dread and awe that this resolve was only the beginning. The galaxy had waited in silence, each empire preparing in secret, each ruler whispering of war, and at last the day came when waiting ended. The coalition of great powers, forged from fear and hate, united their fleets into one Armada larger than anything the stars had ever seen. Thousands of warships gathered, their weapons shining like burning suns, their commanders promising to erase Earth from history. They called it the final strike, and they believed numbers would crush the dark matter Armada where nothing else had. When their fleets moved, whole sectors shook under their engines, and the smaller races hid in terror, praying that humanity would survive. But Earth did not tremble. The call went out, and the Armada rose to meet the storm. From the black of space, hundreds of human ships emerged, each one a silent shadow that swallowed light, each one a ghost moving without sound. They were fewer in number, far fewer than the coalition, but they did not move with fear. They moved with resolve. At the edge of a dead star, where no world lived to witness, the greatest battle in galactic history began. The coalition fired first, unleashing a storm of fire, beams, missiles, and weapons forged from the most forbidden sciences. The void burned brighter than a sun, but when the flames cleared, the Armada still stood. Their dark matter shields bent the storm into nothing, their shadows devoured the light. Then humanity struck. The Armada did not fire like other fleets. They tore space itself, bending the battlefield, pulling enemy ships into traps of gravity and silence. Whole squadrons vanished in an instant, their screams lost before they were ever spoken. Others turned against one another, their systems broken by invisible hands, their weapons firing into their own fleets. Yet the coalition did not break easily. They had prepared for this, building counter-weapons designed to pierce the shadows, engines to resist the bends of space, cannons forged to burn even through dark matter. For the first time, the Armada felt resistance. Ships were lost, torn apart in silent explosions, their crews swallowed by the void. Humanity bled, but it did not falter. Every ship fought as if it carried the weight of Earth itself. Every crew willing to fall so long as the Armada stood. The battle raged for hours, each side refusing to yield. The galaxy trembled as thousands of ships were erased, their light turning the void into a storm of fire and shadow. And then, in the heart of the chaos, the flagship of Earth moved forward. Larger than any other, its hull was a void darker than the night, its engines humming with the power of 1,000 stars. It carried the voice of humanity, and in the silence of battle, that voice was heard. We will not kneel. We will not break. We will not be erased. With those words, the flagship unleashed its full power. Space itself shattered, tearing open a wound in the void that swallowed the heart of the coalition fleet. Hundreds of enemy ships vanished in a single instant, erased without trace. The tide turned. The coalition fought desperately, but their unity broke under the weight of fear. Some fleets fled, others turned on their allies, and soon the Grand Armada of the galaxy was nothing but shattered fragments. Humanity stood in the ruins, scarred but unbroken. The final battle was over, and Earth had not only survived, it had won. Across the galaxy, silence fell once more, but this silence was different. It was not the silence of fear alone. It was the silence of awe, the silence of a galaxy realizing that nothing would ever be the same. The coalition had thrown everything into the fire, and still humanity had endured. The dark matter Armada had proven itself not just a weapon, but the shield of an entire people. And though the cost was heavy, the victory was eternal. Humanity had stood against the galaxy, and humanity still stood. The final battle had ended, but its echoes stretched far beyond the ruined fleets and broken stars. The galaxy, once filled with voices of empires, once heavy with the noise of threats and pride, had fallen into silence. Whole sectors that had burned with war now drifted empty, their skies scarred by wreckage, their suns dimmed by the shadow of destruction. The coalition was shattered, its rulers either slain in the storm or hiding in shame, and the smaller races whispered quietly, too afraid to speak too loud, too afraid to break the silence left behind. Humanity stood in the center of it all, scarred, bloodied, yet unbroken. The Armada had lost ships, heroes had fallen, and colonies wept for those who never returned, but Earth still stood strong. Across the stars, every surviving human world carried the same truth. They had faced the greatest powers of the galaxy, and they had not fallen. In silence, they had risen, and in silence, they had endured. Now the galaxy feared not only their strength, but their resolve. No empire dared to move against them, no fleet dared to test them again, for the memory of the Armada's shadows still haunted every commander's mind. The dark hulls that swallowed light, the silent strikes that erased whole fleets, the endless will that no betrayal could break, all of it had become legend. Even in defeat, the coalition had given humanity a gift they did not intend. They had proven to all races that Earth was not prey, not fragile, not weak. Earth was something more, something new. For some, this silence was fear, but for others, it was hope. Small civilizations, those long crushed under the weight of empires, now looked to Earth as a shield, as a promise of safety. Secret envoys crossed the stars, seeking humanity's protection, swearing loyalty in return for survival. And though humanity was wary, though betrayal still burned in their memory, they did not close their doors. They listened. They remembered what it meant to stand alone in the darkness, and they vowed that no one else would be abandoned to that silence. In the heart of Earth, leaders spoke of a new path. Not conquest, not revenge, but balance. The Armada would remain, its shadows ready to strike if danger rose again, but its purpose would no longer be only survival. Its purpose would be to guard, to watch, to ensure that silence was not broken by arrogance and tyranny. For the first time, humanity was no longer only a people fighting to exist. They had become something greater, a force that shaped the galaxy itself. The stars burned quietly, watching as a new order slowly began to rise, not from the ruins of old empires but from the determination of a race that had been betrayed, tested, and forged in fire. And so the galaxy remained silent, but it was not the silence of fear alone. It was the silence before change, the silence before something new. Humanity had endured the storm, and now the stars themselves seemed to wait for their next step. The dark matter Armada, once feared as shadows of destruction, had become symbols of resilience. Wherever they drifted in the void, other races bowed in respect, whispering the name of Earth not with hatred but with awe. The galaxy was silent, but in that silence, a promise echoed, a promise that humanity would not kneel, humanity would not vanish, and humanity would never again be silenced by the arrogance of others. The war had ended, but the story of humanity had only just begun.